Joining me in the studio this afternoon, Arsenal broadcaster Harry Simeons here. Harry, it really was a bad day for Spurs at the office, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. Right from the off, we mentioned earlier on they gave away some really sloppy goals. And, it's strange because there's all this kind of talk about Antonio Conte insisting on them playing out from the back.
Yeah.
His Inter team did play out from the back, but not when it wasn't working. They were very good at switching it up, recognising that the press was a problem for them,
right,
and bypassing it. And it just felt like yesterday, and I don't know if that was an instruction from the manager or if it was the players just maybe not managing the situation themselves, but they never wanted to move away from that, and it was a massive problem.
But is that not within the manager to instruct at that point, or should the players know better to go, actually, you're right, the press too much, and change it?
I think we talk a lot nowadays, don't we, about philosophy managers and managers kind of really drilling in a particular way of playing and then wanting to see that way sort of applied every single time, no matter what the circumstances are. But there's got to be an element of game management from the players as well. And I think, I always think back to this really brilliant quote from Jens Lehmann, who used to say that you shouldn't let the game play you play the game. Mm-hmm. So if you are seeing what's happening and you're seeing it's not working, then you can change it. And you don't always have to wait for the manager to tell you to change it. I think that's the difference between the elite level and then players like Spurs have at the back at the moment. They just aren't top draw.
What is the problem here? I mean, defensively, it's just the players are not up to scratch.
Yeah, I think, Hugo Lloris got a lot of criticism yesterday, and rightly so. Yeah. I think it's not something new to see Hugo Lloris make high-profile errors. He can make match-winning saves. We all know that. We've seen it time and time again, but he can also cost you. And he had one of those days yesterday, but the rest of them didn't exactly cover themselves in glory either.
Yeah, and it's 3 losses in a row now. Like we said, when Antonio Conte started, they went 8 wins or something in a row, 8 or 9 wins. And then when it becomes 2 or 3 losses in a row, that's when things really start to turn and fans get unhappy again. But it all comes back to one man, and it's Daniel Levy not backing and not offering up cash to buy new players.
Yeah, this is the thing. You can spend the big bucks on the big managers, but if you then don't replicate that in terms of bringing in the right players, then it feels like a pointless exercise. They've done it. They've gone for Mourinho, who similarly to Antonio Conte was tried and tested, proven, and it didn't work with him. The backing came, I think, too late. I think it was too little, too late. I think they're always shopping in a bracket of players that is just below the elite level. Like a lot of clubs around them, my club are in the same boat. You have to get creative, you have to get smart, because you can't go and spend £100 million on one player. But, at Tottenham, they're looking for a short-term fix. That's what Mourinho was. That's what Conte is on a 2-year contract. Short-term fixes, but the problem is deeper, and you've got to rip it all out and start again. They're not willing to do it.
How are they going to, though, when the man who's holding the purse is the man in charge? Is not going to change? So is it just accepting that it's just going to be a tough time and that your team isn't going to produce the goods that you want them to?
I think the biggest difficulty that Tottenham as a club have is getting that message across to the fans that it's going to take some time. And I think Antonio Conte's made a real point of saying that in press conferences and in interviews. He wants to make it clear that he doesn't expect there to be success at Spurs overnight. But there can be greater success than what they're currently seeing if they go and invest right. Antonio Conte hadn't lost 3 league games in a row for 13 years.
Wow.
13 years.
Wow.
And he's gone to Spurs. He's not really been backed in January, really.
No.
If you think about it. Kulusevski, Bentancur, players that improve the squad, but do they really take you up to that level instantly? I don't think so.
They're not worldies.
No.
Not exactly who's looking for. His job coming in as well is to go for top 4. And it doesn't look like that will easily happen either. Let's just talk about that race for top 4 and top 6 being so competitive as well. But it looks like Manchester United aren't going to touch the sides.
I don't know. I still, from the start of the season, I've always said it would be Manchester United for me, finishing in the top 4.
Okay.
I still look at them and think they've got individual quality, and if it clicks, and we were talking about them earlier just briefly, they're missing a ton of chances. That Southampton game could have gone so different. The Burnley game could have gone so different. It just feels like if they do click, they'll still be in there with a shout, but they're no longer favourites, that's for sure.
I mean, it's a bit shambolic as well. So you look at that race then for top 4 and who's competing. Who do you think's going to take that spot? Is it going to be Arsenal?
I'd love to say that with confidence. I'm in a place where with Arsenal, I think the door is open for us, and it's on us now to move forward and make sure that we take advantage of it. But it's not going to be easy. We've got a paper thin squad. We're going to need a bit of fortune between now and the end of the season to ensure that the key players remain fit. And if they do, then why not? We've got as good a chance, if not better than most. But it's still open. And just like Manchester United and Spurs at the weekend turned in abject performances, I know in my heart of hearts that Arsenal can produce those performances as well. So
you do. I like that you know that you're in a good place with it all, and you have to mentally tell yourself, actually, Harry, we're not that bad after all. It's not too shabby at all. Do you think Spurs will turn it round in their next fixture? Because coming up, they've got Burnley next, and then Leeds. They've also got City just ahead of that as well. So we'll take City. Is that going to be a win or a loss?
Judging by recent evidence, then I don't think you can make Spurs favourites against Manchester City.
No.
Not at all. It's difficult for Conte because the longer the rot goes on, the harder it is to get out of it, and obviously that's not an ideal fixture just around the corner.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just wonder what the plan is here from Daniel Levy. Is it something that he's thinking about, or does he not hear the fans? Does he not listen to the press or read the paper? Does he not see any of this? Does he genuinely turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to it?
I think someone in Daniel Levy's position will listen. He will have his ear to the ground. There'll be people within the club who are tasked with doing that. But he's shown over the years that he doesn't really care what the fans think. He doesn't really care if there's pressure on him to go out and spend big. Daniel Levy's never, ever really buckled to that pressure. He's very headstrong. He knows what he wants to do. He looks after the club from a business perspective, and that's how he sees it. And I just don't see him changing his ways. And it's why I've always said that, when you look at Arsenal, their neighbours just down the road who went through a very similar thing, new stadium, tied their hands behind their back for years with regards to spending. I think Daniel Levy is now experiencing that same thing, only he's not got an Arsene Wenger there kind of pushing for the big stuff.
Do you feel that the run that Antonio Conte had when he came into the club before the January transfer window, there were several games unbeaten, that Daniel Levy went, well, you can do a job. We don't actually have to spend any money at the moment, and we'll just sit tight for another wee while. Do you think that's something Antonio Conte would have agreed to?
It's a hard one, because knowing Antonio Conte, I'm surprised, I would be surprised if he took that job on without guarantees about what he was going to be given in the transfer market. And I take your point. I think it's a valid point. I think that sometimes when you go on a run like that, where you've improved the team almost instantly, you can find yourself facing some resistance when you then go and knock on the chairman's door and ask for transfer funds. But Antonio Conte is not the type to go, yeah, you know what, you're right, we'll just crack on. I find it very hard to believe that he's not unhappy with the situation.
Would have liked to have seen him at United. Would that have worked better for him?
I think so. I think so, because at United, I think there's a higher calibre of player overall. And I think that his sort of managerial qualities would have improved Manchester United far more instantly than he could improve this Tottenham side. But again, just like Tottenham, I think that Manchester United have deeper rooted problems as well and need a rebuild. And he's not the man for that. Well,
we're going to talk about that very, very soon. Just quickly, before we do move on, Hugo Lloris, captain of that side at the weekend as well. He's a player who's been around for quite some time. We've seen several dips in form from Hugo Lloris, and then we've seen him win World Cups as well. Is it fair to say that time is running out? They're going to have to start looking at a new goalkeeper coming in as well? Well,
they've just given him a new contract, haven't they, not so long ago, which was strange to me.
I thought it was strange.
It was strange to me, because I think that, again, I keep talking about it, Tottenham hit the Champions League final. That was the absolute peak. And it's almost as if they needed a rebuild after that. I think most Tottenham fans that I've spoken to will tell you that they needed a rebuild and they knew it. And Tottenham keep putting it off and delaying it and delaying it and delaying it. And Hugo Lloris signing a new contract feels like another move to delay it. And if I was a Spurs fan, I'd be worried about that, because action is needed, and they're not moving forward by signing people like Lloris up again.
Spurs fans will be gutted as to see what's happened then just at the weekend against Wolves when things were looking okay. Is this a happier time for Spurs fans, or is it still as it is?
I think for Spurs fans, there's not much has changed. There was that initial Antonio Conte effect,
glimmer of hope.
Yeah, and you're happy that he's come in, and you look at him top manager, you think that that's going to bring top results instantly. It's just not happened. I think a lot of the same problems that Tottenham had 12 months ago are still quite clear, and I think that will concern Spurs fans.
Who do you want to see come in the summer? If you could have a wish list for Spurs, who's coming in to that squad?
It's really difficult to say because I don't want Spurs to do well, obviously. But but I think they need somebody who is going to come in knowing that and accepting the fact that this is going to be a long haul project, i.e. a Graham Potter, a Ralph Hasenhüttl, the type of manager who maybe isn't the big glamour appointment like a Conte or a Mourinho, but will understand exactly what needs to be done and can oversee the ripping out of what they've got and the rebuilding. Don't know if it will happen though.
Yeah, we wait and see. Spurs now sitting 8th in the table with 36 points, a point now from Wolves and 3 points from Arsenal. So I mean, it has been worse, but it could be better for Spurs fans. Okay, you listen to The Social on talkSPORT2. My name's Shebahn Aherne. Coming up next, let's talk about